There once was an orthodontist who said these words: if you ignore your teeth, one day they will go away. And here's what I know. There's a population in our world that the church has ignored. And slowly but surely, they have drifted away from the church. And that population is men. Believe it or not, it's men. There are 2 times as many women who attend church around the world than there are men. Get this, the peak of their involvement in the life of faith happens when they are just 10 years old. And from that point on until they hit their 20s and 30s, their involvement, their engagement in the life of faith, it plummets. And here's what we know: it never quite recovers. You see, here's the thing we've been talking about all week long on the Daily Dose. It's why do men hate going to church so often? Folks, I'm so glad you tuned in. We're going to wrap up this series today. But before we do, would you do a couple of things for me? If you're watching on Facebook, would you help us get the word out? You can do that by sharing this post. Go ahead and like it. And then while you're out there, go ahead and check in here at Calvary. We have a generous donor. Over every check-in you provide on Facebook, they're donating $5 to our Backpack Attack program that's feeding hungry kids and families in our community. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Hit the little bell so you get notifications. And last but not least, if you're watching on Cable Access 181, would you share with a friend about the Daily Dose? Invite them to watch with you. Again, we've been talking all week long about why men hate going to church. And if you've missed any of these episodes and you have a significant other in your life that happens to be a man, whether that be a son or it be an uncle or it be a father, a grandfather, a spouse, I'd love for you and whoever that man is in your life for you to sit down and watch these, because I think it would spur some conversation that they might agree with. Today I want to leave you with 5 ways that we can keep men engaged in the life of faith. The first one is this. Here's what we all know about men. Men are doers. You know this. Women, if you're watching, here's what you know. Men in your life love to tinker. They don't sit still very well. They love to go out in the garage and monkey with their car or their lawnmower or whatever it is. Men are doers. We don't sit still really well. And so you want to keep that significant person who happens to be a man in your life, you want to keep them engaged in the life of faith. Well, help them connect their doing with the life of faith. Help them find ways to use their skills, their gifts, to engage in the life of faith. And so in the church, we could often do things like this. If your husband, if your son is handy with their hands, find people that they can serve. They can be the hands and feet of Christ in their life. If you've got financial gifts as the church, we could engage them in helping us with things like financial management. If they're a chef, let's get them cooking meals for people in need. If they're a doctor, help them connect their faith with helping those who maybe are underprivileged. If that man in your life is a coach, we got to engage men with young boys to raise them up in the life of faith. If they're a plumber, let's get them serving and connecting their faith with their doing. The second way that we can engage men in the life of faith is by showing them a path to walk or a ladder towards a goal that they can climb to. What do I mean by that? Well, here's what I know about myself. I was not going to take up running until I had a goal. It wasn't until I signed up for a marathon that I actually put in the time, I put in the miles to train for that marathon. We men are sort of wired that way. We need a goal. We need a target to shoot for. We need a mountain to climb. We need a game to win. So I wonder how it is that we could connect for men that desire to climb the mountain, to shoot for a target. Could we give men a target to shoot for when it comes to the life of faith? Here's another one for you. The third way we can engage men is that we can make sure that our communities of faith are engaged in making a difference in our community and in the world. There's a saying that goes like this: the church is sort of like manure. I know this is terrible, but just hang on. The church is like manure. You pile it up and it stinks up the neighborhood, but if you spread it out, it enriches the world. You see, here's what we know. For men, the church has to be making a difference, externally focused, making sure that we're making the world a better place. The fourth way we can engage men in the life of faith has to do with dreams. I think too often we dream dreams that are far too small. You see, here's what we need. We need to connect faith with God-sized dreams. Too often we church people, we play it safe. We don't take risks. You see, here's what I think men are looking for. Men are looking for us to dream dreams so big that we couldn't possibly accomplish them without God's help. The last way I think we can engage men in the life of faith has to do with adventure. I already said that men are doers, but men love adventure. Too often they connect the life of faith with that obligatory hour they spent in church as a little boy being bored to death. Think for a minute about the movies that women like compared to the movies that often men like. Women often love a story about a woman who finds happiness in the love of a wonderful man who sweeps her off her feet, right? Think about the movies that men often gravitate. They're all about a hero who saves the world against all odds. Think of the Bourne Identity movies, Mission Impossible. Think of Superman, James Bond, Iron Man. All these are about heroes who save the day against all odds. Men are looking for a life of faith that is filled with adventure. Folks, here's what you and I know, that far too often men hate going to church. But here's what's beautiful. We know that doesn't have to be the end of the story. We can engage men in the life of faith. There's a passage in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 that talks about the body and how there are all kinds of parts to the body. But when one part of that body is missing, the body is not whole. And the same goes for the men in our life. When we as the church, we simply write off a part of the population of the church, we're saying that we can somehow be whole without them, and that just isn't the case. Folks, how might we create a church that's more welcoming to those men in your life, those men who far too often hate going to church? Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. or poor, well, it don't matter. We go strong, you know, love is what we're after. We're all broken, but we're all in this together. God knows we stumble and fall, yes we do. But He so loved the world, He sent His Son to save us all. And all the people said amen. Oh, and all the people said amen. Give thanks to the Lord, for His love never ends. And all the people said amen. Blessed are the poor in spirit who were torn apart. Blessed are the persecuted and the pure in heart. Blessed are the people hungry for another star. For this is the kingdom of God. And all the people said amen. Hey! Whoa, whoa, whoa. And all the people said amen. Give thanks to the Lord, for His love never